Hello and welcome to the second video where we talk about data structures and how can we actually store data within Java. As I've said, this is our second video in the series, so if this is the first video that you are seeing, please go to the playlist that is listed in the description below and start from the beginning, because you will lose quite a lot of context if you do not. So yeah, let's get on to the collections. So the array that we have been using previously is very nice to use. It is pretty powerful, we can do a lot of things with it, but still there are some caveats, right? First of all, we need to write out everything ourselves, right? There is no API, there is no really strong argument to be using the array in terms of the programmatic capabilities that it has, right? Because there is not really much that we can do. We need to write out everything ourselves. And then the most important part is that the size is static. So here for the get longest name, I can only choose 3 names to choose the longest out of, meaning that I can't really control it, right? So it is pretty annoying to work with because I need to know beforehand what would be the size. But thankfully, Java has an answer to just that, and that is an array list from within the collections framework. And what exactly is a collections framework? It is actually just a collection of collections. So it is a library that has a list of classes that really do help out in storing data. It has been created by the people who maintain Java language, and it's just a very nice implementation of some basic data structure context, so that it's much easier for us to store the data in any shape or form within Java. So without further ado, let's just get to it, right? The first one that we will be talking about will be ArrayList. Because ArrayList is essentially an array, but with a nice API, and it's dynamic, meaning that we can actually use it for multiple purposes. And we don't have to worry about the size of it. So let's take a look at how to create an ArrayList first. So we will just use ArrayList, then we use those diamonds that I will explain in just a second. Let's call it just elements equals new ArrayList, as we would with any object. But what are those diamonds and why do we use them? So when we were using any arrays, we're just writing out the type and the square brackets, right? Just like over here for strings. But if we want to do the same for ArrayList to point out to the type that it should have, we need to use those diamonds and just write out the class that we wanted to store. And very important distinction is that ArrayList can only use objects. We cannot put primitives over here. So that is why we need to use only objects. And if you want to use numbers or anything of sorts, then you just need to use the object version, for example, integer, if you want to store numbers. But let's stick with strings. So how to use this mysterious array list? First of all, let's add some elements to the array list. We use a method called add, which allows us to actually store everything that is of the same type as the array list. And let's add 2 elements to it. And then let's try to use another method to determine the size of an array list. Because as we may remember, for the array, the size was always static as the one that we have created, but let's see what will be the size of the array list after adding up 2 elements to it. Let's run the program and let's see what is the output. The output is 2. Meaning that we've got 2 elements in an array. The size is dynamic and it is going to be changing as we add and remove elements. ArrayList also uses indices, meaning that in order to get any sort of element from the array list, we need to use the index of this element. So in order to get this one, what we need to do is system out println elements.get and then the index of that element that we want. And here we got index 2 out of bounds for length 2, because as we may remember, we count in Java starting from 0. So I should just put 1. Now I got my elements in place. What I can also do is I can remove elements from an array list. With an array, I couldn't really do it because there was always some value in there, but with an array list, I can actually remove elements pretty easily using elements.remove. And here I can, for example, use either object or the index. In this case, I'm just going to remove an index. And then let's print out the size once again. So yeah, first of all, we've got the size after adding two elements. Then we are getting one element and printing its value, removing one element, and then we see that the size has also changed. So that's very, very useful. Let's add another string. This thing called free. And last but not least, what we can also do with our array list is we can check whether it contains something, right? It is very useful if you want to check if something is in the array list. For example, if I wanted to do it with an array, I would need to just manually go through all the elements within the array. But thankfully for array list, I can just use the method contains, which is elements that contains. And here I write out, for example, I want to know if it contains object called 2. And let's check it out. Yeah, it doesn't. Let's check if it contains an element 3. And here I got true. So super helpful, super useful to actually check out what is going on. But those are like theory lessons. So let's maybe try and rewrite our getLongestName method to use ArrayList so that it's dynamic and I don't have to worry about the size. So let's think a little bit what will be required for me to actually change it so that it uses ArrayLists. First of all, with an array list, I do have a set number of repetitions, or rather the size of the array is not really here a problem for me, because I can just indefinitely add elements to the array list. So I will need to change the loops, for example, the first one, and I will need to change a little bit this for, because I want to not use this one because this one is pretty ugly, and I can leverage something called enhanced for that I will show you in just a second. So let's just create a new method so that we have a comparison between an old one and a new one. Public static string get longest name array list. Let's copy over the declaration of a scanner. Let's create an array list for our names. And let's also create a flag to stop our array, because right now I can't really use a for loop using the size of the array because ArrayList is actually dynamic, so it will add up to the point where I just want to stop. So I will need to use a flag to control the loop that is iterating over the names that I get. Let's call it, that should stop. First is going to be false. Okay. And now let's create our main loop. Okay. While not should stop. So as long as this is false, then continue with the loop. And then we are going to copy over those lines. So entering a name and getting name from the user. Then we want to add up the name. And then we need to get our input from the user if he wants to continue. Do you want to continue? If not, enter exit. String exit command equals scanner.next line. So now what we do is that if we get an exit string from the end user, then it will mean that he or she wants to stop. And we will then need to change the Boolean flag that is controlling our loop. So then what we need to do, if exit command that equals exit, then what we will do is should stop equals true. Let's format it a little bit. Okay, so now it looks like we can get our list of names. What is left to do is this part, right? The entirety of it. So let's copy and paste it over here, because I will change it just slightly. So the smallest length will be actually not something like this, but names that get of 0.length. Okay, so now it works, nice. We can even be a little bit fancy and just use getFirst method that our array list gives us, so that we explicitly always get the first element. And here we got string smallest names, and now names.length, nope, names.size. So now we can use this for, or we can use an enhanced for. In order to use an enhanced for, of course, I'm going to be using a for, but first I need to specify the type that I want to go through. This will be a string name, colon, and now I need to use the name of a collection that I want to use. So here I will go through all the names that I have, and then I will be able to access this name by using this variable here that I have created. And now instead of calling it like that, I can just use names. Name, and here also name. So yeah, let's go through the program from the top. Here we got a declaration of a scanner, an array list, and our boolean to stop the loop. Then we've got a while loop that is using our boolean. We print out to the user to enter a name, scanner next line, names add the name, so we are adding the name after scanning it from the end user. We communicate to the end user whether he or she wants to continue. If not, they should enter exit. We get the exit command. If exit command equals exit, then we should stop. Afterwards, we declare a smallest length, so the first element of our array list will serve as the comparison. And then we go through all the names that we have in our list of names. And then if smallest length is larger than name.length, smallest name equals name, and we update also the smallest length value. But yep, let's check how it actually performs, whether everything is working properly, and if something is broken. So let's just try get longest name array list. And let's run the code. Enter a name, Joe. Do you want to continue? Yes. Enter a name, John. Do you want to continue? Nope. Let's press exit. And what I'm expecting to see is Joe. Something probably did not work. So let's see how did it actually behave. So for string name in the names, we actually have gotten smallest length is larger than name.length. If not, name. So I think it's a good time to introduce a debugger. So let's see how a debugger really works. We need to step into our method. We need to check what is going on. So we need to do a breakpoint, because what we will do is that we will manually check what is going on within our code. And in order to do that, we need to stop somewhere, and just introducing a breakpoint over here on the in the little gutter on the left allows us to do so. Now what I want to do is I want to also introduce a breakpoint here so that I stop whenever this is called. Then instead of pressing play, I need to press this little bug that I have here. And now I see that I have stopped. In order to get into the method that I want to debug, I need to press this button over here called step into, get longest name ArrayList, and now I can just go through all the elements, or rather all the lines. The highlighted line is the one that I'm at. In order to go over this line, meaning that I want this line to be executed, I can just press step over, step over, step over, and now I'm in the loop. Okay, enter a name. Okay, and now the code waits for me to enter the name, as we can see with scan the next line. Let's use John. Okay, back to the threads and variables. Step over, step over, step over. Once again, we are waiting for a command. Yes. We step over once again. Okay, back to the top. Enter a name. Let's use Joe, as we did previously. Okay, we are adding this name. Okay. Now we are waiting for the exit command. Let's exit. Should stop false. Okay. And now the loop is finished. Nice. Let's check our threads and variables. Names, array, we've got John, we've got Joe, so everything should be working properly. Now, let's take a look at what is going on within the loop. The other one. String smallest name. Okay, so smallest length is 4. Smallest name is this one. So, for string name in names, if smallest length is bigger than name.length, in this case 4 is not bigger than 4, because right now we are looking at the John name and we have been using the all the smallest length. Okay, let's check now. Is smallest length, so number 4, bigger than name.length? Yes, that is true. So smallest name is now Joe, and smallest length is now name.length. So in this case, it's going to be 2, or rather 3, sorry. So, okay, everything looks good. Smallest name then is going to be Joe. And let's check within the console what is happening. Yeah, get longest name ArrayList. And we've got Joe. So I don't know why, but it didn't really execute properly on the first try. And we didn't really get Joe into the equation, but seems like everything is working properly now. So yeah, fun part with the debugger as well. We'll be using quite a bit of the debugger moving forward, because it is very, very important tool. So with that being said, let's sum up the things that we know about ArrayList right now. First of all, it's dynamic compared to an array. It cannot store any primitives, and it's way easier to use and more powerful. It has dedicated methods, it has dedicated interface, so that it's way easier for us to use it, to really write out some sophisticated code with it. So with that being said, see you in the next video, where we are going to be talking about sorting an array list and what can we do to actually achieve it. Thank you very much and see you then.